This is a compilation of the films I shot when I went to the Netherlands in May 2009 cycling, and what I've done, I've put the titles of the individual films like here to show you, and you can go and find them on Simple Sci 13 and watch the longer versions for each section. So I left England on Sunday morning and took the car via the ferry to Dunkirk and then drove to Bruges here, which is in Belgium. And then I drove on up to Delft, which is between Rotterdam and The Hague. So my hotel was just on the right hand side when that McDonald's sign is, and I used to cycle this way and sometimes walk it as well in the evenings. And it was a lovely ride into the centre of Delft through the suburbs here. And I didn't use a car except once during the whole trip, and I always used my bike, and I was using the trains to get around the Netherlands. So it's pretty easy to get to the station from the hotel, and I could use the trains after 9 o'clock. So the first day I got a 2-hour train ride down to Middleburg, which is on the southwest coast of the Netherlands, and I was going to ride back to Delft going along the coastal route. So I was really interested to looking forward to doing this ride, because on the map it looks really interesting, because it's like a series of islands linked by the road and the causeway and the dam. So you can see this dam in the background. So it looked really interesting, and I've never been to this part of the Netherlands before, so I was quite keen to do this ride. So there's terrific cycleways most of the route, and like this one, it's going along right along the coast. Some beautiful views. It's really nice, very flat. Not too many other people, I have to say. But once you left Middleburg, there's no more trains until you get too close to Rotterdam. So I was pretty well committed to doing the ride. So I had to carry everything with me, puncher kit and food, and I didn't have any problems though. I just noticed this shot, the sun there, going across the clouds. It's quite cool. You can see here the sun coming out, and beautiful day. So the afternoon it got better and better. Eventually I hit back to the river which goes to Rotterdam, and I got the ferry across and I cycled back to Delft, and that was the end of day one, and I think it was about 75 miles. So next day I cycled to The Hague from Delft and to the coast here, and what I was planning to do was to cycle part of the North Sea route, which goes along the coast northwards. And it goes through these stunning dunes. Beautiful. The coast hasn't been urbanized like Belgium has, so this is really wild countryside. There's one or two seaside towns you eventually go through, and but essentially this goes on for miles and miles. It's a very nice riding country. It's fairly flat, and I loved it. The weather wasn't quite so good this day, probably the worst day of the 4 I was there, and I did quite a long ride back inland, which wasn't so good, but stunning scenery. I think I did about 70 miles this day as well, so it was not a long day in the saddle. So next day, third day, I took the train up north, and I was going to do the crossing of the Afsluitdijk, which is the crossing by the sea. To get there I had to do these back lanes, these long straight roads. Very nice though. So that was a 10-mile warm-up, and then eventually you hit the Afsluitdijk here, and this, as you can see, is going parallel to the main motorway which goes to the northern part of the Netherlands, 20 miles straight across. Great fun, but long and straight, and very smooth and very fast. I didn't do a non-stop crossing, of course, and I did take my time to do some filming, and it's getting quite a few shots. So I took shots of the two main stopping points, and I also stopped in between as well to get various interesting shots for the film. There's me recorded for posterity. I did do it this day. So being on the bike, I was able to take some of these more interesting shots, and able to actually go and have a look, see what's above the bank here, which you couldn't do if you're on the car. This is the final stopover, so you can just about see the end in the distance there, and that's looking back, so you can see how long the distances are. So this is the end of the crossing, and then I still had a good 15 miles of cycling the other side here, and that was very nice as well. All these back lanes and cycleways, so it was very pleasant. But I remember that day I was starting to get tired after 3 days of cycling, so I didn't quite do as much as I planned to do, so I got the boat back. I think this is Stavoren. So they have beautiful fishing boats here. So this I haven't put in the original, the long film. So this is only on this film. So I was able to take this boat across back to Enkhuizen and get the train back to Delft. So this crossing was about an hour to do. So this is coming into Enkhuizen here, which I didn't get time to explore, which I think is worth a visit because I think it's a canal town as well. So I only had a quick look, and here's the station, and it was a 2-hour journey back to Delft basically. So for the final day I took the train back up to Amsterdam Central here and got the boat across and cycled out through the north-eastern suburbs, and I was going to go up the coast up to Markham and then cycle back around and get the train back into Amsterdam and then do a little bit of sightseeing. So this was a bit of a lazy day because I was a bit tired, and this is Markham. It's out on a peninsula, which I didn't really film, and this was coming back, and I was going to get the train back into Amsterdam. And this is had a bit of an accident because I ended up going to Schiphol, and I had to cycle back from Schiphol back to Amsterdam. So I was coming back in from the south, but that was quite a nice ride, so I enjoyed that. And here's a few shots of the canals as I cycled and walked back through Amsterdam. So I have been to Amsterdam before. I've been once to the Netherlands, and I did all the tourist sites. So I didn't do it this time, and I cycled from the south through the rings of canals, and I was taking all this film here. So I didn't do much except look around and then head back to Central Station and then get the train back to Delft. But it was a beautiful evening. I did have a coffee and something to eat, but it was a very nice evening. So this was my last whole day in the Netherlands, and the next day I was due go back to Dunkirk in France to get the ferry back. So I had the whole day to do that because I had an evening crossing. So I eventually ended up on the coast, this is shot at De Panne, which is just right on the Belgian border with France. And I've done this long tracking shot around, and I haven't put this on separately. This is only on this film. So you can see the difference between Belgium and the Netherlands coast. Belgium is basically all built up because I think most of it all the way along the coast looks like this. The Netherlands is much more wilder, although it has its seaside towns of course, but as you can see from my films, it's some beautiful sections to ride. It's a good tracking shot though. Dunkirk's in the distance there. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the films. Check out the longer versions of each film, and be good.